And I'm back with more Dragon Quest VII. I'm stuck in a cave somewhere. And it's long, so I'm going to continue on with dungeon rants. Last time, I did my per-usual talk about kind of how the channel develops and does this stuff, and you know how games are picked, and how my thought process is on what games I will or will not play at a given time, but why I do it. This episode's going to be more about this game as it is. And look at me having to actually use stuff. Magic water. Yeah, that's one of the few times I've had to actually use items in here. But, yeah, I got the term dungeon rant from another Let's Player that I've been following for years, Nakatalili. And whenever he did, like, Persona or Dot Hack, he would do dungeon rants like this, where he'd talk about stuff. And last time I talked about, hey, certain games I like, certain games I don't like, here's why, whatever. But it's mostly just filler stuff that I talk about mostly. This one is Dragon Quest VII specifically, and things I'm noticing. Because I didn't play Dragon Quest VII when it came out for the PlayStation 1. Because my first Dragon Quest experience was 8. And by the time I would have played this, like, I don't even know if Dragon Quest VII was available in the US. I don't think it was. I think they made a big push for 8 to be the one that was released. And just going off what this game is giving me, I have lots of thoughts. One being, I wish they would stop hitting me with frickin' Dazzle. But besides that, dungeon design is both good and bad, and a lot of it has to do with the structure of the game, and the structure of the game is going to be the biggest talking point. The concept of this game is pretty obvious. You're going into the past to do things in the past, to revive things in the present and make them better. So it's a sort of time travel experience, sort of not. But in a kind of linear-ish fashion, because you're still kind of beholden to the way a game is going to be structured. You don't want to go into an area that's designed 20 levels below you, below you or above you or whatever. So you have to have some structure. Having said that, I do wish, and this is one of the games that I think is this is one of the areas I'm struggling with. I do wish that the dungeons were a little more even. And this is coming from a content creator's perspective, not so much an observer. Because the tower, I had to cut in half, because it was way longer between save points than I would have imagined. The other dungeons so far, I've been able to do in like one video, give or take. But this is the first time in a while that I've had to do a dungeon in 2, maybe even 3 episodes. So logical progression should be like every dungeon should be designed like this, or it should be shorter. Like the last area, it was pretty dang short. Like the Institute of Technology, the Automaton Stronghold, was like half an hour. This is about gonna take me an hour. So why is there that discrepancy? Why is this one taking an hour when the other one is taking 15 minutes? I understand that from a simplicity standpoint. You don't want... Let's see, magic. you don't want everything to be the same. I get that. You want some variety. But you also want, you know, by and large, the later in the game you go, stuff should be longer. So, some of it could be because I'm just fighting enemies all the time. But I've been fighting enemies all the time anyway. So that is it. They designed a certain area, or the last two areas, to be kind of short, and then this one is kind of long. Or it could be because, for relative sake, the save points are not as available, are not as easily accessible. I'm not going to say this game is difficult. That's what I said in the last episode. This game is far from difficult. But for a new person coming in who has no knowledge of it, like, I have to do this all the time. I have to play all the way through and get to a save point. Otherwise, I'm going to lose my progress. I can't just not play it and then come back to it 4 or 5 days later and then pick it back up. Like, the way I have to do this for content, and that's me personally. It could be totally different for somebody else playing this for fun. Like, they have an hour. They'll play for an hour. I don't want to just zoom out and save, because that's not how this... I don't want to go back in. You know, so... maybe that's just me. It's a straight line dungeon. It's not hard. I'm just fighting everything. But that speaks to, okay, it's difficult enough that I'm actually using resources, finally. But that also begs the question, what about having to do the dungeons a second time? It's a unique idea. Redoing a dungeon you've already done. But is it all that interesting from a gameplay perspective if you're redoing, like, the same fights over and over? So, knowing that an enemy formation you've seen 3 or 4 times over in the same setup, is it worth doing again? Because these guys have been... those guys have been around 3 or 4 areas by now. By now, that's where the other mechanic comes in of being able to just instantly kill them, sure. So I'm grateful that they thought of that. It might also just become one of the situations where I'm going to have to let the enemies run away from me. But I don't think that's how this game was originally designed, and I think I'm going to be fighting everything. Just because I know from previous Dragon Quest experience, you want to fight everything, because the final bosses are going to be hard. And shit like that can happen too. So yeah, I want to fight everything. So it's a give and take. However, there's also a sort of... why would I want to go through a dungeon for an hour just to finally get a save point? Did you hear that? I'm sure I heard sound coming from out there. Let's go check it out. Rob! Let's go check it out. Anyway. So I think it's neat. Uh-oh. Oh man, they're coming back. God, that's really annoying. Uh-oh. Huh. Hello. Ah, hit! Don't hit me. I'm not a bad monster, honest. I used to live here with the Almighty's clan long, long ago. I'm on your side, I promise. And to prove it, I'm gonna tell you something really useful. Deep inside this cave, there's an altar made of stalagmites. If you're going to drain the lake, you need to put the Chimes of the Chosen on it. Once all the water's gone, you'll need to be able to get to the lake from the first level of the caves. Thank you.
Oh.
The ancient text spoke true. The Chimes of the Chosen are indeed the key to draining the lake. Come, let us hurry. We've not much further to go. That you are here, that signifies that you are both proven bold and wise. Now prove you're of the chosen line, and lo, the onward path shall shine. Prove you're of the chosen line. That must mean we're supposed to present the Chimes of the Chosen. We are close now. We must be. Our destiny will soon be fulfilled. We must wait a little while longer, Lola. Let me go back to where I was first. I think from a viewership perspective, doing the same dungeons twice, like the areas and the new people showing up and how it's changed is great. But I do think the dungeons themselves, or at least the layouts, could have changed a bit more to facilitate some change, like the enemies could be harder, could be easier, something like that. As far as the design itself, actually, I don't need to go... Yeah, I did everything. Okay, good. I did everything. Alright, never mind. I was going back just to be safe. It's an interesting idea because Dragon Quest has always kind of been a sort of D&D-ish kind of vibe where go to this place and do the daily grind and find the thing of what's causing the town to suffer, and then you will find the final boss and whatever midway through the game and shit like that. So, leaning into that more and more is not a bad idea. Because it makes sense. Dragon Quest is... Dragon Quest feels best when you're roaming the countryside and going from place to place to place to place to place and doing new things and trying new things and learning about the characters and the locales. And I do appreciate from a voice acting perspective that it is a kind of worldly vibe that Dragon Quest goes for. It's not just in this game, but all of them, where you are going to facsimiles of not just an English or a UK-based area. You're going to an Italian place. You're going to a Russian-type place. You're going to an India or an Africa. I mean, that was kind of the entire scope of Dragon Quest III was, oh, I'm going to Africa now. I'm going to Egypt now. I'm going to whatever now. I'm going to Russia now. And the voice acting makes a good attempt at making everybody sound distinct, even though they're mainly English voice actors. British English, so to speak. The accent work, or the dialect work, whether accurate or not, they at least try to make it more so. Because a lot of games do tend to just be American, and there is that, sometimes you have that problem. Some people complain about it. I don't really. About hearing anime voice actors or cartoon voice actors or video game voice actors over and over and over and hearing the same ones, and I actually like it because I respect those people doing it. And I also hear them in almost everything I watch, so I kind of revel in that sort of thing, so I know how good they are. But yeah, I do understand every so often people being like, I like hearing the British English, because it's almost never the same people. It's like, the one time I've heard the same actor in a Dragon Quest game was the mother in 9 and 3. I only know that because I played those games 2 or 3 times over. Like, you play these games over and over, you're almost never going to hear the same person. Right? So, to an extent, and that comes into play, like, some people can disconnect the actor from the person they're performing. Some people don't. I get that. If you hear the same person and they're doing the same role or a similar voice type, it might drive you nuts if that's all you hear and you're just like, oh, I'm just hearing the person. I tend to be different. I tend to be like, oh, that person's in this is cool. I can just let myself drown in their performance now. It's great. I can shut my brain off after, like, the few lines of it and be like, okay, now I can focus on the character they're playing because I know I'm going to like the performance no matter what. Right? So I think it's different people want different things. Some people would prefer a different voice to come out of the person. So they sound unique. They sound like a character. They sound like a person, rather than, oh, it's Yuri Lowenthal or Alex Lee or such and such person or whatever, you know. Name a voice actor you've heard, and, you know, the Troy Baker thing. Troy Baker's and everything. Probably because he's good at it. They pick him because he's good at it, or he fits a role, you know? It's not because, oh my god, he's paid so much. No. It's because he's versatile enough to probably make it work. Like, if I had the skill set of a Troy Baker, I'd be super happy too, because that means that I'd get every role on the planet, but there's probably way more to it than that. Obviously, he's been at this for like 20, 30 some years. That's the other thing about it, is I think that's why I respect them so much. I do voice acting on the side for independent stuff, but I'm never going to say, oh, I'm going to be the next whatever, because I'm not. God, no. Because it takes a lot of effort to do voice acting. It's terrible. So I can respect the craft a bit. Some people just get hung up on the minutia of a thing and be like, I'm going to attack this person. I don't know, because I don't like them and it's dumb, or I hear them in everything, so they're overexposed, or they're shoved down our throats, or they're always picked for the same roles. I'm like, no. They got picked for a role because they auditioned for it and they won. You know, it's pretty simple. And it's the same true for this game. The people that got picked were picked because they were good enough to be cast in said roles. So it's a give and take. As for the characters themselves... Ooh, hello. Should I save it? Can I go on here? No, I can't. Okay, well... there is no save point. It's weird. I think I'll be fine. Let me just make that point for now, because it looks like there's gonna be a scene here. As far as the characters themselves, like, this guy has no character. He's a silent protagonist. I've always been on that mindset that a silent protagonist is no character. He's just some dope who kind of followed along Kiefer's wanderlust and went about it. And he's a nice, cheerful guy, but he's no different from the guy in 1. He's no different from the guy in 2. He's no different from the guy in 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 11, 9, whatever Dragon Quest game. There's only so much you can do with a silent protagonist to make them interesting. So, whatever. Maribel, ugh, I've made my thoughts perfectly clear. Having finished, like, the story parts of the game, like, I see that she's useful in battle, but she's insufferable as a person. I get it. Not everybody's supposed to be the most magnanimous and lovely person and great and cheerful person, but my God, does it seem like even if the game's trying to make her sympathetic in spots, like, her motivations for being in the party are kind of flimsy, right? She's there because Kiefer and Oster are doing their own thing, and she just wants to join in because she's tied down to her family. Like, I get it. You're doing the, I don't want to be with my family. Like, I'm sorry, but I had this problem with, like, Love Through a Prism. I was watching Love Through a Prism on Netflix last season, and this guy was trying to rebel against his family. Like, I get it. You're a noble family, you have noble obligations and whatever, but you have a silver spoon. You have a 1%er mindset, and you're going to piss that all away because you want to go out and gallivant around because it's freedom and whatever. I get that. The expectations of being a noble person can weigh on a person to the point where they want to break and just not do it. I come from a situation where you are lucky enough to be born, and in Maribel's case, he was lucky enough to be born a mayor, much less a king. And Kiefer to the same extent too. Fulfill your obligations to king and country. Fulfill your obligations to the town that you're tied to. I get that you want to have fun in the world. That's part of being a teenager. You're a dumb teenager. You're allowed to do that. But Maribel, to a lesser extent than Kiefer, because Kiefer doesn't really have an excuse, Maribel, like, her family at least recognizes that she's like this, but the way she goes about it is what pisses me off, because she always constantly thinks that Kiefer and Oster are fucking idiots, and that she's above them all, but she's playing it as a tsundere, and she really likes them, and whatever, and she's like, I don't want to be... Like, she'll have, like, one moment in 5 where her lines are like, oh, I actually do think it's the nice and noble thing to do, but then every other instance, it's like, you people are going to make me run around in the muck, or you don't have a clue what you're doing. This is pathetic. And it gets grating after a while. So she gets annoyed. Ruff is just Ruff. He's great. There's nothing really amazing about him. He's just Wolf Boy. But it's kind of like Gao. You either like him or you don't like him. He's not complicated at all. So, hooray for pop-ups. Anyway, so the characters are a mixed bag, and I think Kiefer, like, I want to like him, but his love at first sight and what we're gonna see with Lala is really fucking stupid, even if the game is trying to get to something later. They go about it, because of the structure of the game, in a very chintzy way, so it's kind of...
Oh.
So, anyway. But I wanted to get those out of my head because those are kind of the main thoughts so far. This is it! This is the mechanism that will allow us to drown from the lake. Because there's only so much that the game can do with a structure like this. Developing these stories and developing these characters that were only going to be around for about an hour, it's hard to take them as serious as, like, life-altering decisions, but the game is trying its hardest to bend over backwards to make them seem that way too, and some are better than others. I think Regenstein was good, but some others are not that great, and it just comes off as trying to do too much. It's almost like Legend of Mana. Like, I want to care, but by the time I'm done with this, I'm never seeing you again, so it doesn't matter, you know? Hopefully that makes sense. Anyway, if I place the chimes of the chosen here, the altar of the Almighty will become accessible. Are you ready? Shall I place them? I will say I like the way the visual style works for the game, though. It's just enough. As soon as the ritual is performed, Lala will be ready. She will be free to love me. Like, this game is different from the way Dragon Quest III and the other ones are. The HT2D remake. And I appreciate that it's, like, close enough to the way the later Dragon Quest games were, while still being its own thing.
Oh.
Now it's finally time for the restoration to take place. Come. Aha. I've done these things, yay. Let's go this direction. And I think I already said what I said about the way they used a bunch of cool ideas to give you quality of life functionality. By the way, did I get... Shit, did I remember to get... Did I get the fragment? I did, didn't I? Yeah, there we go. I did. Okay. I think I did. Let me check again. Just to be safe. I don't think I would forget. Because the quality of life in this game is fantastic. Any game that allows you to pick and choose how you want to interact with its mechanics, the versatility involved, is fantastic. I think I did. I wouldn't have forgot it. I'll just assume that I grabbed it. Or if I didn't, then I'll grab it some other location. Let me see. I don't think... Let me just check again. Right, yeah, this is all the same. Oh, I could have just checked this. Yeah, I could have just checked this. It would have been all the same. Yeah, I didn't miss anything. Good. Okay, cool. I didn't miss anything. I'm good. The ease of use is something I appreciate. Being allowed to kind of play the game your way instead of playing the game the developer's way is nice. Charm. What is this? Twinkling of stars and the arcane folding fan. Chance of confusing an enemy. I don't know. How good is it compared to... Well, there's a wizard staff. Attack is kinda... I'm not gonna lie, causing confusion, I don't know how useful that is. The strength is not great. I don't know. I'll save it. I got the prayer ring. I forgot about the prayer ring. What's the prayer ring do? Prayer ring... 10 defense. Restores some MP. Will break when used. Nah. I'll save it. So yeah, the characters are a mixed bag. The gameplay is Dragon Quest. Like, if you played a Dragon Quest game, you know how this game operates. Like, I'm not sitting here and saying Dragon Quest is any better, any worse. Oh, there's your save point. Let me see where I'm at. I might have to call it again. But this should tell you how much I needed a save point, if nothing else. Eesh. My god, dude. An hour and 15 minutes with a 5 or 10 minute break. Like, yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, I won't save it just yet. Let me kind of finish my overall thoughts while I'm here. Let me get off the screen for a second. I saved it, thank God. They took me to the title screen. Damn it! Well, thank God I saved. Thank God I saved. That's some problems I find sometimes. I gotta watch out for that in Dragon Quest. Because they always ask you, do you want to continue the adventure? You press the wrong button, you gotta redo everything. But yeah, what did I get? I got to... I like the design of the game from an aesthetic point of view. Having to redo dungeons, not as much. I like that you have quality of life in so many different ways. You can change the way the battles are. You can change the battle speed. You can choose to have the enemies run away from you. So like my issue of the dungeons being longer could have been curtailed if I chose. So again, that's a personal preference choice. I wanted to fight everything. So I could have made this game harder or easier on myself if I chose differently. So that in and of itself, I changed. I could have made this a 10-minute dungeon if I so wanted, you know, but I wouldn't have fought anything and I probably wouldn't have leveled up, so that's what it is. Characters, like, I get what they're going for, but I don't think any of them are really great. I think the characters I'm going to get later are more what I want out of protagonists. So maybe it's just an issue of being an older player rather than a teenager, you know, because these games are still, to this day, even though Dragon Quest is a legacy franchise, this game was designed for kids in their teens. Maybe I felt that way back when I was 15. I was a sheltered boy. I didn't really have many friends, and I still really kind of don't. I'm an introvert, you know. But the way I process things, and I think I've said since being 30 and now being 40, I've kind of cemented who I'm gonna be. And a lot of the stuff I talk about in Danganronpa or this, like, I have a fondness for or I don't have a fondness for. And there are some things that maybe when I was 15 I probably would have thought were the coolest thing in the world, and now I think are just chintzy because I've seen too much of it, and I don't think it works as well. So some of the characters in this, you know, even by Dragon Quest standards are, you know, you've got Sylvando at the top, right, as like the be-all, end-all of awesomeness in terms of how a character is in their own way. And you have these people just kind of, Again, there are characters that are as good or better than Sylvando, I'm sure, but I'm just using Sylvando as a reference point. You've got your Sylvandos. None of these people are Sylvandos. Just bear that in mind. So, But, you know, traversing the game at your own pace, I think that is going to be the legacy of this remaster. Because I don't remember what the original game was like. I don't know how long or how short of a game it was. I think they made this game in such a way that you can play it how you want, much like the Pixel remaster. And a lot of the issues that I have are with maybe the way I play it. The bosses are easy. The fights themselves are finally starting to become challenging to an extent, so maybe the game is harder. But I'm coming off of Dragon Quest III, which was pretty dang difficult. So this one is just way easier in comparison. So, who knows? But hopefully, I use this episode as kind of a for now, like 1/4 or 1/3 of the way through the game, like what my initial thoughts are, because I know what the story is going to be. But I don't want to give all of that away. I just want to kind of go in a gauge for where this is right now, what I'm feeling as far as this game is, and call it here, because I spent 2 episodes playing this, so I'll get to play Danganronpa tomorrow. But that's fine. That's part of the fun of the journey. I'm still having a lot of fun. And it's a Dragon Quest game. I'm not never going to have fun, or I'm always going to have fun. That's the power of a double negative. I will see you later. Hopefully you guys enjoyed these dungeon rants. I don't know how often I'm going to get to do them, but this was a rare chance to do so. So, I'll see you next time.